Namaste and welcome to this evening's session on a very interesting topic, present, living in now. So let us start with our prayer and join me please for the prayers. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. Welcome. Before I start, I would like to say that this topic is suggested by a few of the viewers, and I thank for the contribution. And it's a pleasure to share my thoughts on this beautiful topic. Many have spoken on this, and I'm sure it's a very intriguing subject to contemplate. I'm here to share my views and whatever little I have grasped in life, and that I'm going to share today with you. This topic, living in now, is found to be very uh, interesting because it has captured the fascination and imagination of people for a long time. Everybody talks about living in the present, don't worry about the past. And how do we normally understand this? Is that a state of life wherein you don't have to carry your baggage from the past and you have, don't worry about the future, which is uncertain. Hence, a state of living which is very much in the present is required. And whenever I look at this thought, and I always ask this question, that is how I learn, is why? The why is my interesting question as to why do we need to live in now? And the only answer I get with my inquiry is that living in now is the only way to gain happiness, to be happy in life. If you want to be permanently happy, if you want to experience this eternal joy and happiness, it is only in the state of now. So if you look at it, the present moment, it has, past. So the seed from past gives you the present, and the present has a seed for the future. And the past, and hence we call this present as an omnipresent, because in this present you have the past as well as the future, and it gives you a comprehensive understanding and outlook of a life. Hence we call it omnipresent. But what does this mean? And that is what is important to understand. See, the present has got two elements. The past, which is based off memories, and the future, which I have put it as an aspirations. Now, anything you talk about in life are only these two aspects. From a very basic thing like asking somebody, what's your name? The answer would be based on the memory. Okay, my name is so and so. So the total existence of the present is somehow merged into these two extremes. So even though we say living in now, but we define our present based on our past and the future. So the first question, if I ask you what's your name, that is based on the past. And who are you? Your answer is based on past. What you do is based on future. I'm studying, I'm working. In this continuous format, when I say why, it is because of the aspirations. I want to get good grades. I want to get good job. I want to have good life. So the aspirations define what I want to be, what I am, and my memories define my identity per se. So I am basically torn between these two. So where is the present? And this is a conflict. So if I say I'm in the present, what does it really mean? So on one hand, I see the past cannot be changed and future is uncertain. Hence we say focus on the present. But the present is defined by my past and the future. Without memories and aspirations, I don't seem to have my present. Isn't that funny? And that's what triggers this thought for me as to then who am I? How do I define my present? And what is this conflict? And this conflict of being in the present without memories and aspiration, imagine how crazy it would sound. So you will, if somebody has lost his memory, we will define him as an Alzheimer's patient having some kind of dementia, and he will be treated in a hospital or a treatment because he does not know who he is. And if I don't have aspirations, they'll say he has got no drive and there is nothing to live in life for. So why are you even alive if you don't have any aspirations to do work? But the beauty is that the concept of now, it does not have both of them, but it still has the energy, the zeal, and the excitement of living in the now. How is that? So this is a kind of conflict which may arise in the people because the way we define present is different. And when I look at it now, what does it actually mean? Is it no dependency on memories and no attention or to aspirations? Then where do I stand and how do I take it forward and understand living in now? What does it mean? Because on one hand, memory makes me identify with myself. Imagine if I lose my memory completely. Is that what it is? And I don't have an aspiration, then I may not have identity. Then what is that? Then what does it mean to live in now? And is it really possible to live in now without memory and aspiration? So this conflict is actually a starting point of inquiry. A self inquiry process starts here to really understand, do I need memory? Do I need aspiration to live a fulfilled life? And without memory and aspiration, what would be my identity? There are scholars who tell you that every day you get up, actually, they will, if you read them and you look at it, they will tell you that every time we make a decision, we are biased based on our memory. Because what has happened in the past has built my aspiration. So most of the time, we don't even listen to people to learn, we listen to reply because we are based on memory. We don't want to learn unless it fulfills my aspiration. So I learn to acquire, not to grow. So I'm torn between these two, memory and aspirations, and still I want my identity. And the concept of now is the solution. But now is defined by my past and the present. So, where is my now and how do I look at it? And why this conflict? And the reason for conflict, what I understand is, comes from the manner we understand time. Now, this is where I would like your attention. I'm using a term like Western concept and an Eastern, but I would not say Eastern because uh, today the connotations have changed. But I would like to use a term, please don't catch me for that, say a Western mindset, which can be in the East also, because East is today, everybody has the same right brain thought process. And I would use the other one as, say, Vedic thought process, because wherever you practice Vedic philosophy, I'm purposely not using Hinduism because that has got different connotation. I like to use the term Vedic knowledge because that is a source of the knowledge, and wherever in the world it is practiced, they are same. So the Western thought, the right-minded, the logical mind, tells us that time is linear. We have something called a past, we have the present, and we have future. So when I walk, in my journey of my life, I say this happened in the past. I'm working for my future. So we have a linear tendency of looking at life. I was a child, now I grow up and I'll be old. This happened yesterday, and that we will plan for tomorrow. So this is how we look at life. Everything is in a linear manner. And there is a conflict, because when we think in linear terms, then there are many questions which remain unanswered. Because then we start thinking that the whole concept of time travel and all that starts coming into picture, because we think, okay, can I predict my future? And here I know that I can't predict anything. I even don't know what my next minute is going to be. Will I have a heart attack and gone forever? Or will I find a hidden treasure and I'll be different? So in that uncertainty of life in which we live, we don't know anything, and still we are working for something called future, and something called past, which is gone, which we can't touch, which is totally, has got no relevance today, but we still hang on to it. The grievances, the grudges, the memories, the sadness, the happiness, we are stuck to that. So linear thought is the conflict of living in now. The Vedic thought process is different. In the Vedic thought process, time is not considered to be linear. It says it's an approach, but the real time is looked at as circular. That's why in the Vedic term in Sanskrit, they use a term called Kala Chakra. They always think of time as a circular movement. It is cyclically moving. It is not linear. In the circle, when you are moving, the beautiful part of circle is that there is no beginning, there is no end. So how can I say something happened now and something happened in the past? And everything gets merged. And there in the cyclic time, we are able to visualize, conceptualize a state wherein all the three merges into now. Let me give you an example from our session today. I have people right now watching this program from Canada, from Africa, from Indonesia, and probably from Singapore. So you have one Indonesia, which would be my future. In India, this is Saturday evening, sorry, Wednesday evening. In Indonesia, it is Wednesday night. And in the Western hemisphere, like Americas, it is Wednesday morning. So the America is behind us, behind India, and Indonesia is in front. So Indonesia has time has passed, whereas America time is coming. So from my perspective, I am right now seeing my past and the future in the present. And not only seeing it, I'm actually communicating with all the three zones at the same time. So if you look at it, the present is capturing, I'm able to communicate in my past and in my future from a linear perspective. So if you take life in a linear manner, then we are actually interacting with all the three, past, present, and the future, together in the present. And this concept to understand is a very simple thing, which, like, I feel now it is simple, but this is what will relate to the confusion of now. That is why our Vedic thought tells you that there is nothing called time, everything happens now. What you think in the future is also now, what you are thinking in the past is also now. I think that's also physics will define it today, that everything happens in the same manner everywhere. And this is the concept which comes from the cyclic effect of the time. Now, how do I understand it? If I give you a vehicle and say, okay, drive around this earth, maybe you can drive for days, years, and months and years, you won't find a place where your car will dip. So people initially thought that the earth is flat. But the moment we started going above earth, we went farther from earth, then we saw and we said, hey, the earth is circular. It is not flat. So the view changed. When the view changed, we went above the earth. When our view became broadened, wider, we could see the curves. We could see that the earth was a circular ball. It was not a flat ground. But the moment we came down, the closer our vision became narrower, we only saw a flat land. So saying that time is linear is also true as earth is flat from a narrow perspective. And the moment we go higher, the time becomes circular as the earth becomes round. So there is, if it is round, then where you are standing, that is exactly flat. But the moment I take a step in future, one step in future, I'm actually going a step down in the future. If I take a step back in the past, I'm actually stepping down in the past. And because of this stepping down, a circle is formed. If there is not a next step which is down, then it can't be a circle. The circle means itself means that there is something going down. Every angle is at one step lower angle, and hence that lower makes it a circle. So the beauty of it is, when we look at life from a farther, broader perspective, we understand a cyclic effect. In that process, we realize that, hey, all the time zone is merging into now. There's nothing called past, there's nothing called future, it is now. But when we come to the linear manner and narrow vision, starting point, there we have this drawing, the vision of something in the past, something is behind me, something is in the front of me. Indonesia is in front and America is behind India. This concept is a linear concept. But when it comes to cyclic, then which is front and which is back? For Indonesia, everything else will be back. For America, everything else will be back. From their perspective, it's a perspective manner. How do we look at and to what? And that is why in the Vedic concept, the cyclic effect, it's called Kala Chakra. We are so interwoven in this circle's time of ball that it appears to be different, whereas everything is happening at the same time. It is sometimes mind boggling for me to comprehend when some philosophy writes that even Treta Yuga, that Rama's time is still happening somewhere at the same time. But do I vibrate or move in that frequency to understand, to see, to experience that era? I don't. I can't even vibrate in a normal frequency to see the feelings of others, the other human beings. Unless and until I interact, I may not even understand their feeling. So as a human being, we have not yet sensitized ourselves to our surroundings. Then how can I even imagine to vibrate, to feel the sensitivity of the other worlds and our other spheres of life? In the astral science, they tell you that the astral world is also right overlapping this cross world. Only when you learn to vibrate, to experience that, then you start really experiencing that astral world. But as far as the location is concerned, there is no difference. It's right here. But we are not able to see that. So once we get this kind of clarity about now, then we realize that what we were depending on memory to make an identification of myself as who am I? This question of who am I can't answer if I don't have memory. Right? In a normal manner, we will not be able to answer if I don't have memory or if I do not depend on my memory to answer. But fortunately, in our country, in our India and continent, we had some great souls who explained the answer in a different way. There was a giant of a personality called Adi Shankaracharya. At the age of 8, somebody asked him, "Who are you?" And he said, "Aham nirvakalpo nirakara rupo. Vibhurvyapta sarvatra sarvendriyanam. Sada me samatvam na bhumir na bandhu. Chidananda rupa. Shivoham, Shivoham." He said, "I am not the senses, I am not the body. I am embodiment of truth, Chidanand. I am the embodiment of truth, peace, and truth, beauty, and happiness, bliss. I am that auspiciousness, the Shiva himself." Now, this answer cannot be given by memory. It is not a memory game. The moment I depend on memory, then I will be thinking where this body came from and all that. Then my identification becomes very physical. But living in now is an identification of truth. The true identification to know who am I. And that is where you start living not with memory, but with awareness. That awareness replaces the concept of memory. In awareness, you are aware of everything, all the facets, all the dimensions of life. So-called past and the future becomes in our purview. So the memory changes with awareness the moment we start living in now. So the now concept grows. Because now I wake up in the morning, it's like a child waking up. Look at a baby of, say, 1.5 years or something. For him, everything is excitement. The moment he opens his eyes, even a toy in front of him is an excitement. He looks at it with an awe. But when we grow up, we lose that awe. Even though God has got plenty to surprise us around, it has got miracles happening every second of our life. But we are so attuned differently that we lose the interest, we lose the eyesight to look at the miracles happening around us. The heart beating inside us, isn't that a miracle? The hair growing, isn't that a miracle? The eyes observing, isn't that a miracle? Everything, if I like, I'm so amazed when my science student, my friends talk to me and they tell me about the body and all that. It's amazing to see that there is so much miracles happening around us that we take it for granted and we lose that excitement. But isn't that child excited, jumping with joy? Can you imagine you waking up in the morning and then wondering, what is this? Not dependent on the memory to define it as a hand and fingers, but the excitement to look at it, that what an instrument this is, that I can use it to do so much act of service. And who am I doing it? And then the inquiry starts happening. Dr. Krishnamurti said, wake up every day with no memory and find yourself who you are. And if you don't remember it and don't find it, then don't sleep. And if you sleep, then start again afresh without memory. When I read for the first time, I was like confused. I said, what does he mean? Have no memory when you carry. But over the years, the more I think about it, I realize the depth of his statement. That literally, no bias, no prejudice, no memory, no headache of the past. You wake up fresh like a child and admire yourself, like what a wonderful thing I have been given. And then the question comes, who is this inquiring? Who is this commanding the hand to get up? Who is this commanding this eyes to open? Who is this commanding this body to have function? And that inquiry will make into self-realization. Isn't that the purpose of life? And that is the art of living in now. So we are always chasing that now concept, and the now concept does not depend on memory. It is an area of awareness. The day we start living with awareness, not depending on the memory, we start living it now. That is the beauty of now. So always think from that perspective, that it is not depending on the past. So when I look at somebody, when I meet somebody, immediately I have to program my memory, that how was this person before? And then I start conducting according to that. But if I'm aware, then my approach will be different. Because memory is between the senses, below the senses, and awareness crosses that. So the way outlook of the person with awareness will be different. That's why we find these saints and seers who have that experience of self-realization or self-actualization, who live in awareness. You find an innocent smile on their face all the time. You find excitement in them. They don't work to achieve something, but they live a fulfilled life. They conduct with full attention and full energy. You will never find them getting for a motivational talk to work something. They get up every morning and find something to do and contribute and give, give, give. They don't stop giving. So when you live in now, you always function at the high level. That is another proof of living in now. And this is important. Learning from past, thinking, not worrying, and act on the plan as applicable in the present. Because people would, this is another dilemma which many people have, that does it mean living in present that I should not plan for my future? See, we don't, it's not called planning for future. It's an act because we are still trapped in our body consciousness. But as long as we understand what it means, then we have created a goal for us. That goal will motivate us to move forward. But till we have reached that goal, we can't act as if I am in the now. But we can start pretending to be now by at least conducting with that awareness that I must live in now. And what does it mean? It means that take the experiences from the past, the learning. Don't take the people from the past, the situations from the past, only the learning from the past. Whatever you have faced in the past, as we have discussed before also, it is based on our own karmic cycles. Until I have realized I have to bear them, I have to face them. Hence, let me only extract the learning from it. And based on those learnings, I may work and act in the present. But when I act in the present, I'm also looking to clarify my future in the sense of what will be my next step. As a student, my target could be passing an examination. As an employer, my task could be to finish the task in a timely and a productive manner. But for that, what is required in the present, I must do with fullness, not half-hearted. That's what we call, we have to do our best, act in the best possible manner. But don't get trapped in the future. Don't start defining your effort based on the output of the future. The output may encourage you, inspire you in the present. That's okay. But let not your action be dependent on the output and you get influenced by it. So before you start, you are welcome to look at the past learnings and you are welcome to look at the aspirations and encouragement from the future. But once you start working, then don't worry about the past and the future. So every minute of your life, if we start concentrating on what am I supposed to do at a particular given time, then probably I will start experiencing the joy of living now. And hopefully one day I may reach a state of life wherein I will live with awareness and not dependent on memory and aspirations. For a realized, fulfilled soul, there is nothing to aspire. There is nothing to achieve. See, the moment I say I want something, that indirectly tells me that I don't have something. So if I say I want to become this, that means I'm lacking something in life. And if I am unfulfilled, then I can never find fulfillment. The beauty of happiness and fulfillment is that it is not something in the final destination. It is in the beginning, throughout the journey, and hence you will only enhance it. So anybody who is chasing happiness may continue to chase for his lifetime. Happiness is to be realized and lived now. And the moment we do that, suddenly the whole concept would change. Then we realize that happiness is my true nature. And that's why the difference between, we have discussed this also in the previous workshops, thinking and worrying. So when I look at a past concept and I think about it, thinking in the past makes me churn the lessons from the past. Thinking for the future is to find solutions to move forward. Otherwise, one will become a worry and one will become a disappointment, discouragement, and depressions, or a fear. The future gives you fear if that thinking is not in the right approach. So you can take that, but in the present, it should be joy, fulfillment, and only then in the present we are able to live with fulfillment and up to the full potential of ours. So that is living in now. That is what I feel and I think about, that don't worry about memory. But initially we do need memory. But keep in mind that memory is below senses and our goal is beyond senses. Hence, the memory should be overtaken by awareness. When I'm aware, then it's like, you are hardwired, connected with the uh, virtual drive, which has got everything in it, data. So I don't carry it in my head, but when I need it, I just plug in and I get the information. Like somebody asked an Einstein his phone number and he said, I don't remember. And he had to look up his diary and give it. So Somebody said, "Don't you even remember?" He said, "Why should I bother? I've got so many other things to remember. When I need my number, you have to call me, so you should know my number, not me." And I have it in written and down. So the beauty of it is that there is a awareness makes you connect not through the papers and books, but virtually, internally. So awareness is that connectivity with the virtual, with that cosmic intelligence, that whatever you need, close your eyes and you connect and pick it up, but you don't carry it. So it's like traveling in the train. You keep your baggage in the train, on the compartment, in the compartment. You don't carry it on your shoulder and sit in the train. The same manner, in awareness, you live in the world totally connected, but without any baggage. So that is how thinking, not worrying, and living without fear and extracting the joy in the present. That is living in now. And this is a state which our Vedic scriptures define it as sthita pragya. Sthita pragya is a Sanskrit word which literally means one who has equanimity in all the circumstances, be it joy or sad, be it happiness or sadness, be it ups and downs of life, you remain equanimous. And I love one statement which says, "This too shall pass." So with such people, if you go and tell them, you know, compliment them for something amazing happened, some good news, so to say, they will say, "This too shall pass." And if something bad happens, the answer is still the same: "This too shall pass." That is an attitude of sthita pragya. And that is what our scriptures teach us, that that is the best stage and can be correlated with living in now. So the moment we learn this, the concept of living in now in the present, we somehow start becoming that equanimous. The equanimity starts dawning. What I find is that you can't pretend to be equanimous. You cannot pretend to be, same, living in now. All that is bestowed on us. Only thing in our hand is a sincere effort in that direction. So the more and more we learn about these things, the more and more we should go towards that thought and conduct as best as possible in that format. And the more and more we live with that awareness of being in the present and don't worry about the past and don't worry about the future, then hopefully this state of sthita pragya will be bestowed on us. So that is living in now for me. So I'm open to any questions. So if you have, I'm sorry, I wanted to say that in the beginning, but you're welcome to share any questions. I know it was a little bit fast, but I just wanted to throw this concept with everybody and open it for discussions. So if anyone has any thoughts, any suggestions, you're welcome to talk. So in the meantime, I can revise it for all of us. So you're welcome to write. And if anybody is interested to come in, please message me and I can bring you on. So living in now, just to give a recap, I believe that the whole concept of identity in the now, when we look at it, is a conflict between past and the future, because the whole past is based on memory. From a basic question we answer, "Who am I?" is based on memory. So if I have to say my name, that is based on memory. So it is not, an experience. But from a spiritual perspective, when we look at life, the purpose is self realization. So when we talk about realization, realization is not a past or a future activity, it is now. And hence, that self which we are trying to realize must be in the present. So as long as we refer to self in the past tense, then we can't realize it because it's over, done with. So when we talk about self realization, that is in the present. So only when we are in the present and we catch the self in the present, then only we can realize the self. So if I define that self realization from the past knowledge, which is based on memory, then I can't find realization. So realization is an activity or an experience in the present. It is neither in the past nor in the future. So then that is why memory is not the attribute of self. Awareness is an attribute of self. Memory is mind. The mind has memory, but the self is aware. So that is why if you look at it from that perspective, so I have got a small thought and question here. We are so used to default way of being. How can we practice other than meditation, being aware, being grounded in now, sthita pragya? Well, that is a challenge. So I would say the first step for all of us is to contemplate on this thought as to what is now. Because as I said about the time, linear concept of time, see, this also is a problem because we are so tuned. That's why we feel we were young, we are now, and we'll be old. It's a linear concept. But when we define God and we define saintly people, they say we are, ati nutan, always fresh and new. And how could they be? Physically, we see them decline too, but their aura, their effulgence remains bright and beautiful. It is because the correlation is not a physical correlation. Linearity does not mean that you will start growing physically in the same manner. No, that can happen only when you evolve in different manner. But the fact of the matter is, it is a game beyond physicality, beyond your mind. So when we talk about living in now, it doesn't mean that you freeze your age of the body in one place, but you transcend that concept of living in the present by thinking beyond the body. So first, the practice is basically, it just starts with an inquiry. So don't get trapped into this jargons of now. So we have to become sthita pragya. See, these are concepts and one must know them, but don't get too attached to these concepts because they are too deep. Practice is important. Like my master would always tell us, you know, one spoon of cow's milk is more precious and important than a barrel of donkey's milk. So even if we practice one illustration of the scripture, it is better than memorizing the whole scriptural book because the practice will trigger. And I tell you, my sincere suggestion would be anybody who tries to, only philosophize a concept, avoid arguments because that is an indication that the person has not practiced himself. Because the moment you start practicing, your whole tone of talking would change, your conviction, your approach would change. So all these concepts which I'm sharing is not for discussion purposes to argue. We can discuss to learn and grow together. So as far as the practicing of it concerned, my sincerity would be that first digest this concept. Think about it, that how we are trapped in our own concept. The identity which we give itself belongs to past and the future. So let us find, to start with, let us find an identity which is present. How do I define myself without depending on my past and the future? How can I define myself without my professional degrees and without my, may my family background? What is my identity? How many of us introduce each other and say, I'm a happy guy? You know, I love life. But we always start by saying that I'm a graduate, I'm doing my MBA, or I'm a worker, I have a business. So we have an identity also in the past and the future. We are not in the present. So I'm not saying that start saying tomorrow onwards that, but the point is it is a quest, it is a journey. And how it will manifest for each one of us, honestly, I cannot justify, I cannot say that. But it is a journey worth taking. Rajesh says, Sairam, brother, when in imbalance in a given situation, what are ways to get back in balance or equanimity? Rajesh, can you elaborate what do you mean by imbalance? Uh, I'm trying to comprehend what you mean by imbalance. When you talk about equanimity, that means positive or negative, good or bad. If that is what imbalance you're talking about, then see, good and bad itself is a relative concept. What can be good for you may not be good for others, and what is good for you in the present scenario may not be good in other scenarios. So, good and bad itself is a trap which is given to us through the environment and understanding of environment to us. So, anytime you have this conflict, first and foremost, stop and think the way you are defining good and bad, what is that and why is that? Because nothing is good or bad in this world. It is, that's it. If rose is having a perfume and it looks good, it doesn't mean it is good or bad. It is, that's it. That is its nature. And just because a dump yard smells something smells doesn't mean that that is bad, but it is that it is. So because that is also required in nature and that is also required in nature. You require a thorn, you require a rose. Just because a thorn pricks you, it doesn't make it bad. So the moment I say bad or good, I'm actually getting carried away by interpretations. So we have to practice to see that there is nothing right or wrong. Yes, it may not be applicable to me at a given point of time in life. So I can avoid it. But I need not avoid it by thinking that it is bad. I need not accept something thinking it is good. Just because at that moment I feel comfortable. So it's okay to accept, but I don't need to label it as good. Just because somebody repels me at a point of time, I may avoid it because that person is giving me anger, that person is giving me headache. So if that happens, that may not be good for me at that moment, so I can avoid. But I don't have to label that event or that person as bad. So anger versus what? Tell me, Rajesh. You are saying anger, so I'm asking you what is. He's saying use anger as an example. So anger versus what? So if you are angry, what does it tell you? That something has not gone according to your choice. That's why we get angry. Somebody did not conduct the way you wanted to conduct. Things have not gone as per my taste. That is the reason, undercurrent reason is anger is, your expectations. So expectation is the cause of anger. Now, my expecting X to behave in a particular manner and I'm getting angry is so foolish. Because for a simple reason that how can I expect somebody, if somebody doesn't behave in the particular manner, it's simple logic that that is maybe good for him and may not be applicable to me or may not be liked by me. So carry on. Sunil says each listener, Sunil Korathar, oh, Vandana says how to unlearn all that is ingrained to become more aware of one's true self. Well, Vandana, that is a very, very important and very good question. For that, I would suggest, there's a lesson I've done, and I'm little hesitant because it's a journey for all of us because we all are going through this. I have not yet realized to really preach that part. But yes, there is some concept which I have already dealt with is called vasanas. So there are something called pure vasanas and impure vasanas. They are, in simple language, they are imprints on our consciousness. That consciousness which holds that layer in our body is called chida, and that is what we define as, mana buddhi chitta. The chitta is that element of consciousness which is like a thin layer over our soul, the third body. And that chitta, all your activities, the imprints what we gain through our senses, get imprinted on them. So that is what is called vasanas. There are certain good vasanas, there are certain bad vasanas. To clean them, there is a process that we discussed last time. And the process is very simple, in the sense, if you, it's like, feeding, you must have heard the story of you have two wolves inside you, a good and a bad. So child asked the father, who will win? He said, the one you feed. So similarly for the vasanas, the more we continue to cater to the positive vasanas, they will grow in number and the negatives would fade out. So suppose, for example, you feel more angry, you cannot think of reducing anger to get rid of anger. So the only thing way out is forget the anger and start practicing love, peace, harmony, care, sharing. So when you add up these vasanas more and more, then your other vasana of anger, hatred, jealousy, narrow mindedness will start going down. So the only way of deleting these sections is by increasing the positive vasanas. So that is what the ingrained version is. And as per I mentioned this in last time, all the, when the journey started of this soul from the basic Mahat Tattva through this Trigunas, we have gone through many versions of, evolution. And in each, whether it was a stone, whether it was a tree, whether it was an amoeba, plant, animals, and ultimately human beings, we have gathered certain imprints. And the scientifically it is shown that approximately around 15% of imprints are from the past. 85% of positive divine imprints are on us. Unfortunately, in our life, we are so trapped and we don't give attention to it, that 15 is very difficult to clean, because that is an imprint of tens and thousands of years of journey of the soul. And on the chitta, these imprints have been coming. That's why you can go into past life regression and maybe find what all we were in the past. Like Gautam Buddha's life was captured into Jatak Kathas. So it becomes that. So 15% is that. But they say 85% is the divine energy which is positive lying with us. And what they have recorded is, when they have calculated it, they see that only 3 to 4% of this 85% is what a normal human being utilizes. So imagine, just by 3 or 4% of utilization, we are what we are. If today we are all sitting down together and discussing spirituality and values of life, it is because of the 3%, the twist we have. Now imagine if I increase that 3% to 5% by maybe contemplation, meditation, by prayers, or by whatever means, what we call as sadhanas, or whatever spiritual penances or practices we take up. And that 3% becomes 6%. Imagine the transformation and the change it will bring. But that is the practice, that is where the whole game is, that when we will decide to utilize ourselves from that 3% to jump to 5 to 6 to 7 to 10%. And the more we go here, this 15% will start getting subsided. But if you keep encouraging and get trapped into this 15% of, give and take, relationships, obligations, jealousies, and competitions and aspirations of life, If you're trapped in this 15%, then actually what is happening is the minority is controlling the majority. And the majority is a silent witness. They suffer for no reason. And we don't understand that, hey, it is not that they are powerful, it is because this 85% is sitting quiet. Wake up. And even if the 50% of 80% gets up, finished. So that is how you can, practice that. So it is bringing more positivity in life. You can start reducing your negativity and ultimately overcome it completely. I have not found in any of the studies that can you clean up. The only way I can interpret is that self-realization click, when that happens, then the 15% disappears. Then everything becomes 100%. That awareness is the only click which cleans up everything. And that is the journey. And that is why they say in sometimes that if humans have free will, the best part is that, as somebody beautifully explained, that free will can be with somebody who is free. If I am a slave, how can I have free will? So to have free will, I must be free. So how can every human beings be free when we are all trapped in our senses? We are slave to our senses. So when I am slave to my senses, how can I have free will? So if you want a really free will, then you become free. And that freedom is the realization. So in that concept also the same thing comes in, that first for a free will, you have to be free from your senses. And that is how the life keeps on going. And that is the beauty of, experiencing this joy. So the only way I find to reduce negativity is just forget the negative and keep increasing the positivity. And the more and more we dwell and live in the positive world, suddenly you really feel that negativity does not stand. It is just, in scientific terms, it is 15 versus 85. So you have 85% positive with you to play with. How much of it is utilized, that is up to us. And right now, according to the calculations, we are only utilizing 3 to 4% of 85. So who is stopping us to jump more into goodness? So whatever we do, and the best part is whatever we do, it multiplies. So it is like, that atomic reactions. They say an electron, when the nucleus, you know, merges or hits each other, it multiplies. So it's same thing. It happens in us is that if I throw a negative thought in me, it hits and multiplies. So imagine if 15% is left and encouraged, then the 15 will become 30 and we won't even know it. But similarly, if 85%, even if I do 2% or 3% encouragement, every time I do good, that 3 will become 6, 6 will become 12, and that multiplication will just subside the negative. So the beauty of life is very simple actually. And sometimes it puzzles me that why do we give importance to negativity? And in fighting negativity, we actually promote it. The more I think of negativity in terms of anger, jealousy, or whatever, I'm actually encouraging it. But the best answer is given to us is that forget anger, just think of love, think of peace, think of harmony, think of comradeship, think of sharing. Anger will just disappear. And the moment I give one good act, that multiplies. And that is the key. So if it is not multiplying, that means we have not done enough. We have already gathered too much of garbage from 15, we have made it into bigger portion, and my 85% is now getting impacted. So just go back again. And I don't know how many lifetimes it has taken us to be here in this gathering. And any such topics, I always get a small number of 100, 200 people. But I find that is more interesting because that is what life is all about. That not everybody can discuss even these things. So I feel Hope this helps. Any other question? Any other thoughts? Thank you for being such an interactive audience today. If there is any other thought or a question, Asana says, is practicing gratitude constantly a way to live in the present? Uh, I don't know how to answer that, but living in gratitude is certainly a very good way to live because it certainly keeps you grounded. But I don't know if I can directly, map it to living in the present. But gratitude certainly keeps you grounded. It doesn't allow you to get carried away from past and the future. So there is nothing I can talk about in sense of gratitude. It's a fantastic thing to practice. And Vandana says also, the moment you become conscious of your negativity, it diffuses. Uh, I don't know what you mean by that, but as I said, if you become conscious of negativity, that means it is there. So my master would always tell me that don't even worry about it, just forget it. Neglect, avoid the negativity. Why to become conscious of negative? Because the moment you become conscious, you are giving energy to it. So it may not diffuse actually. How can one have free will in day-to-day mundane life? Ushaji, uh, I would request you to watch my previous episode on free will versus self effort. But just to answer you quickly, uh, because the free will concept is like as I was telling these are concepts we have to look at it from the goal kind of a scenario. So to practice free will in that manner, it is practicing your self effort with consciousness, not with mind. So they say no, the combination of heart and mind should be there. So any decision which you want to take must pass through your head and heart, and then only the action should happen. And this is called Trikarna Shuddhi. This is termed as the purification, the trifold purification. So head, heart, and hand. So if you want to act, if a thought comes in your head, pass it through your heart. It should pass the compassion test too. If suppose an emotion drives you to do something, let it pass through the head, because that emotion must be validated by the mind, whether it is good or not. And then only action must happen. If a thought comes, action and heart should, so these three must collaborate all the time. And this symphony, this synchronization is called Trikarna Shuddhi. And our Vedas declare that those who have the symphony of these three are real yogis and sadpurush, sadhus. And the one who has differentiation in heart, head, and hand, they are called the evil beings. So that is how we can practice in day to day life the free will concept till we arrive at the real free will. So look at every action with your intellect passing through this check of head, heart, and hand. How can one inculcate someone is very sick? That means we will develop positivity. How can we inculcate when someone is very sick? That means he will develop sensitivity. Sunil, I'm not getting your question absolutely, but what I understand is if you are physically bound or emotionally weak, uh, can you please clarify? I'm sorry, I can't figure out the question. How can one, I'm just putting up, I don't know how to interpret that. How can one inculcate when one is very sick? That means we will develop positivity. I'm not able to understand this question, brother. So if you can elaborate, I would appreciate it. Uh, I really would like to discuss all the thoughts which come here. I would like to share them. And because I appreciate, I learned so much from everybody. Uh, Vandana says, I mean the thoughts. Yes, Vandana. Conscious of your negative thoughts. Yes, you can be aware. I would put it in that terminology, just to be aware, but don't give them too much of attention and focus. So, Sunil, brother, I'm not able to get your question. I'm so sorry. Uh, since my time is also, I like to just maintain the timing. We can still go for 4, 5 minutes, but if you can clarify, then we can discuss. Or else, if any other thought, let me know. You can even talk to me separately, Sunil. My email is there. If anybody wishes to send in their thoughts and comments, you are welcome to write to us. I'll be more than happy to respond. And I look forward for your suggestions for the topics for the coming weeks. So thanks to COVID, we still have some time. So and I wish to thank you all for participation and such a wonderful interaction. Thank you very much. I hope this session was fruitful and helpful to everybody. Thank you.